Gotta make myself look presentable in front of the internet. Hello, my name is Andrew Naring, and today I'm going to show you how to use the bare bones basics of Adobe Premiere Pro. Now, I myself am not necessarily a professional on Premiere Pro. I am actually just learning as I go along, but as I was learning, I found that I was having more and more fun using the tool, so I thought I would take you along for my journey to learn how the tool is used and its basic functions and how to progress even further into intermediate territory. Think of this as sort of a beginner's basics by a beginner. So today we are going to be starting out with learning the layout of Premiere Pro, its different functions and whatnot. We're going to learn how to cut different videos together and add in some additional music as well as some overlays to the imagery and a couple of other things along the way. So thank you for checking out my channel. Please stick around to see what I have to offer, and like I said, this is a beginner's basics by a beginner. I know very little about Premiere Pro, but I'm hoping to use this to help me learn as I go along and help it to stick in my head. So the first thing that we want to do before we even go into Adobe Premiere Pro is to make sure that we have everything in its right place and are properly organized. If you're working on a large project like maybe a music video or even a YouTube video where you have 3 different cameras, you don't want all of your footage, music, your overlays, everything to be scattered around and you have to go searching for it. So you want to organize your videos and put them all into one folder. So I'd recommend creating something called a Premiere Pro projects folder and having the label of your project in one of these, such as first tutorial video. And if you click on it, you have some more folders inside. One for footage, one for music, one for overlays, and Premiere, which we'll get into in just a second. And of course, naturally, footage has the clips in it, music has the music, overlays has the things that you will be adding on top of the background footage. So get yourself all sorted out first, and then we can start editing. Once you have everything all in order, you can go into Adobe Premiere Pro, and this should be one of the, if not the first thing that you end up seeing. You can start tutorials if you want. I've kind of been taking YouTube tutorials from the internet because there are a lot of different people and professionals who are willing to give some advice. But if you want to create a new project, you start right here. You just click New Project, and you can update the project name right here. So I'm just going to call this tutorial. And then what we want to do is select our project location. So this will be where our final project will be, where we can find it, which folder it will be in. So we want to choose location, and this is what that Premiere folder in here is going to be for. This will be where we can find the project if we just close it and bring it back up later. So we'll select the folder. Then we want to select some pieces of media. Excuse me. So the first thing that we'll do here is we'll go into movies, and let's choose Premiere Pro first tutorial video, go to footage, double click on everything so you don't select everything that you do, and then you can select it here like so, and then click create. It will load up the layout right here. So the first thing that we are going to be focusing on is down here, the media browser. This is where we will be inserting and importing most of our footage, overlays, music, all of that will be added in here. So the first thing we want to do is stay organized. Like we did previously, we want to make sure that everything is in its right place over here. So we're going to focus on creating new bins, which are essentially folders inside of Premiere Pro. So we can create new bins from right here, and let's title this 01 footage, and this is where we will keep our footage right here. And if we select both of these, put them in here, and now everything is within the footage folder. And I'm going to do the same thing and create some new bins for the music as well as the overlays. If you wanted to create a bin within a bin to keep things even more organized if necessary, depending on your project, what you can do is select the particular bin and then click this, and it will add in a new bin from in here. And if you wanted to destroy something or delete something from inside of the media browser, you just right click your desired piece of media or file and then click cut. And that is, I'm just going to fill this up with the necessary music, show you how to import it. So let's start with the music here. We just double click it and then double click the middle of it here, and it will take us to our folder browser, and we'll just go to Premiere Pro Projects and click music. And now it's in here, and I'm just going to do that with the other bins as well. Another thing that you want to do if you want to stay organized and you're operating on a large, like you're working on a large project, you could label the different bins so that you can tell which is which. So if we right-click these little squares right here, we can click label, and then it will give us a selection of different colors we can choose. So let's say footage is teal, and then we also wanted to make music brown, and then we also wanted to make overlays, let's do violet. So now we can tell which is which just by clicking on new labels, and we have full knowledge of where everything is located and what it looks like. So I just wanted to turn my camera off real quick to give you a quick showcase of the layout of Premiere Pro and what each window is for and its different purposes. Let's start off in the upper right hand corner is the program window, which essentially shows everything that's going on in the video as you're editing it. It doesn't showcase any particular piece of footage or music or anything like that. It shows the video as a whole as you edit it. This is going to be the source window, which will show specific clips or pieces of media or overlays, and this is where you'll be able to edit it from here in the effects control center. We don't have anything selected yet, which is why it's blank. This is actually why everything is blank, because we don't have anything yet, but this is where you'll be able to see your edits in action. This is the media browser where you can insert the different pieces of footage and clips and all your other files as necessary. This is the timeline, which is where we'll be doing most of our editing in here. There isn't anything in the timeline yet, but there will be in just a second. This is the toolbar where we can access most of the tools such as the select or the razor tool. Select, of course, is just lets you select everything that you want to work on, and the razor tool helps you cut the footage, which we'll see in action in just a couple minutes. And this is the decibel meter, which shows the volume that is playing. Typically, you want it to be at around 18 or so. If it starts getting yellow or red up here, then you know that you have an audio problem, and that's what you need to fix. So the first thing that you want to do when you first start editing is to create a new sequence in the timeline. A sequence is essentially different. If you have different videos or different pieces of clips, you want to edit up those first, put them in a sequence folder, which we have down here, and then work on the other one. And once you have them all together, compile them into one grand timeline. But we're going to focus on one clip for now. The first one that we're going to do is 1.mp4. We right-click this and new sequence from clip. And this shows up in the timeline. The V section at the top here is going to stand for video. So this is where we'll add the footage. This is where the overlays will be located. Subtitles, everything that we can see on screen up here will be up here. Down here is audio, which is where our recorded audio is located. This is where we'll put the music. So for now, what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple of edits to this because it's a little long for the intro. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut out the beginning to make it start from around right here as well as the end so that it's just nice and fast. First thing that we want to do is to put it in its correct folder. So we take this right here. This is the sequence that we made. So it's not quite 1.mp4. It's its own little thing that we'll be editing right here. So we can rename it and then we can drag it down into the sequences bin right here. So we click on this and we can see it's right there. So that's the first thing that we do. The second thing that we want to do is to make sure that it matches the other pieces of media right here. And the way how we check on the specifics of the clip is to right-click sequences and go to sequence settings. And we can see that the frame size is 1280 and 720, which is a little bit below HD, which is like 1920 and 1080p. And the time base is 15 frames a second when it's typically around 23 to 24. So we just make sure, it's a good habit to make sure that everything is all in its right place and make sure that it looks nice. Then we're going to edit the clip accordingly. So the way how we do this, and we're going to make it, we can drag this playhead to where we want to edit it, or we could click on the step back one frame or step forward one frame and choose where exactly we want to make the cut. And we could select the razor tool, do this, and now press the select tool again. And as you can see, there's a little line right here. This shows where the cut is. And if we select this and press the delete key, it disappeared off the face of the earth. Now, that would be that would be all, but if we go back here, we can see there's just a bunch of blank space where the previous footage was. So what we want to do is select this and drag it back to the beginning so it starts from right here. And if we wanted to stop right there, we would just do the same thing, but I'm going to show you a little keyboard shortcut. If you click the letter C, it selects the razor tool, and you can access it immediately. If you click V, that goes back to the selection tool. But if you want to go to a specific part, what you can do once you find the place that you want to cut it off is click Control K. And as you can see, it makes it cut automatically right there. We select the unwanted parts and then we click delete. And now all we have is this intro right here. All right, and the next thing that we're going to do is do the exact same thing with 2.mp4, just so that we can create our second sequence so that we can make our full assembly, which is just all of the necessary sequences in the right order that we want so that we can edit the entire video all together. So we're just going to make a new sequence from clip and do everything as it was. Just put this in the right folder and rename it. So 1 second. Okay, and the next thing that we're going to do is delete this empty space right here, the spot between where we snap at the beginning and this new part right here. It's going to be a bit difficult to make this edit when in its current state. So what we can do to help us get a better view is to zoom in using this scroller wheel down here. We take this little dot, stretch it inward, and as you can see, things are getting zoomed in closer and closer, and now we can see the part where we snap in the audio right here, because we make a little snapping sound. We want to make an edit a little bit after the snap so it picks it up. Press C, select from where the playhead is, select V, zoom out again, go over to the other side, zoom back in so that we can find a good spot, and do the exact same thing. And there are a couple of other edits here as well that I will need to make, so I'm just going to do that off screen quick. So I'm going to delete this, zoom this out again, fill it up with this empty space, and make all the other necessary edits. Okay, now that you see I've made a few additional edits here and there in order to make the intro a little bit more concise and cleared up. So the next thing that we want to do is to combine both sequences to make a new assembly, and to make a copy of that assembly so that we have a backup in case something goes wrong. So I would just start by selecting both of these by holding down the left click and then just right clicking, and new sequence from clip, and then we can properly rename this. Let's call it 03. Now, as you can see, we have both clips meshed together. Next thing that we're going to do is we are going to make a copy here. So the way how we do that is by right clicking on our desired sequence and going to duplicate. And as you can see, we have copy down here. So we'll be working with this copy as we go. So the next thing that we want to do is to drag music into our timeline. The way how we do that is by selecting it and dragging it all the way over to A2. So the reason why we're dragging it to A2 is because A1 is where typically our main source of recorded audio is going to be coming from, whether it comes from the clip itself and it's attached to our sequence, or if it comes from a separate tool such as Audacity. We would want to put our audio in A1, and then we put our music right below that, and we would put sound effects below that. So as you can see, our music goes on for quite a while longer than our clips, and if we press play on the whole video, you see in the decibel meter down here that our audio is a little bit too loud. It's going up into the red section, and we can't hear the volume of me talking properly, and we're going to need to change that accordingly. The audio actually leads us into the second place where we will be spending a lot of our time in Adobe Premiere Pro, which is in effect controls. So if we double click on the audio here, it'll come up in this source window or the project window up here, and we can go to effect controls. Typically it will be seen on the right, and we can fix the audio by lowering the volume to around -30, and as you can see, it lowers the volume over here. So, and it goes on this way throughout the rest of the clip. So that's how you fix effect controls. And if you excuse me, I'm just going to cut out this extra bit over here. And there we are. The audio should be much lower than how it was, and it's actually, we can actually hear it in the background, and it isn't covering over our voice right here. So the next thing that we want to do is add in an overlay where I say overlays. And it is right at about this point where we say overlays. And the way how we do that is, let's close that. We open overlays, we select Adobe Premiere Pro, and we drag it over right next to the playhead right here. And as you can see, I don't know if you know this or not, but it may be a little bit large for the screen. Also, it goes on for too long. So the way how we fix this is, let's double click this in Effect Controls, and we can reposition it and rescale it in the Effect Controls right here. We can find this in Motion. Scale is essentially how big and how small you want to make the overlay, and you can make it smaller by scrolling to the left or scrolling to the right. But we want to make this smaller, so let's put it at around that size. And position, one of these is going to be the x-axis, and one of these is going to be the y-axis. And you can scroll this left or right in order to make it go up and down, left to right. So you can also rotate it to make it look a little bit off center if we so chose. So that is how we add in the overlay and adjust it accordingly. And we could also make this go on for a shorter amount of time by going over here, and there's a little bracket on the side. We could click and hold the side over here and drag it all the way to where we want it to end, the in point and the out point. So let's see this. And that works just fine. So that is essentially the basic uses of Adobe Premiere Pro. Of course, there's no secret. It goes even farther deeper into detail than this. But like I said, I'm just learning as I go. So I just wanted to thank you for joining me as I've been taking a lot of time to learn the basics before I really started the tutorials, so I appreciate your patience with me. I'll come out with more tutorials that go even further in depth on keyboard shortcuts, subtitles, zooming in and zooming out, and hopefully some more intermediate tricks as well that I'm not even aware of. So thank you all so much for your time, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.